17 people killed by a Czech mass murderer, and the headline here in the States? How rare mass shootings are in Europe. The fake news making sure that you admire Europe and hate the U.S. today on The 10th Man. ABC News gave a 90-second report on December 22nd covering the latest random attack in Europe. They call it a mass shooting because that term lets them ignore other random attacks in order to support their narrative demanding more gun laws. Only 90 seconds, yet they managed to tell us how rare a mass shooting is in Europe 3 times.
This morning, authorities investigating a rare mass shooting in Europe say the gunman was inspired by a similar shooting in Russia.
1.
That building there is the arts faculty, a scene of horror earlier. Officials here calling this rare mass shooting unprecedented and insane.
2.
I wasn't just, ready to admit that something like that could happen in Prague.
And 3. It could never happen here. So different from their coverage of mass stabbings in the same news cycle. Ironic, though, that this rare shooting attack was inspired by another one in Russia a month before, and itself led to another copycat the very next day. Maybe the news should emphasize that these attacks feed on each other, especially in the U.S., where the media go into a reporting frenzy that drives ratings and revenue, but is known to cause repeats. Take, for example, the back-to-back shootings in Serbia last May. That's right, the last big school shooting, the first event of those 2, was also in Europe. Then there's terrorism, not a huge problem in the U.S. so far, which took the lives of 2 Swedish tourists shot by Hamas sympathizers in Brussels last October. When the news says rare, what do they mean exactly? Unfortunately, the word rare is another term made meaningless by the fake news. We've had multiple shark attacks this year, and the news calls each one rare. In terms of citizen hours spent at the beach versus going about our daily lives, I'd wager shark attacks are more likely than mass shootings, proportionally speaking. But when the U.S. has a rare mass murder, they say we have more than one a day. If we do have one a day, then where's that comparison stacking up Prague's shooting next to ours? Did you see any Prague-style shootings in the USA this week? But we have more than one a day, that's what the news says. Do we, though? The Gun Violence Archive with the violence king Mark Bryant says 4 guys shot each other in a bar fight Sunday night. They were hospitalized, no one was killed. They knew each other. It was not random, and it was not in a crowded public space. So it was nothing at all like the Prague shooting. Oh, but it's still the guns, right? If that were true, then why is the Idaho University mass stabbing murder reported so differently by the news? Back to ABC, same network, same news day. 4 students much like those at Prague, were killed, stabbed to death in November 2022. But look at this report.
New developments in the Idaho college student murders case. Brian Koberger is charged with killing 4 University of Idaho students in an off-campus house, which is set to be demolished next week.
They talk about killing, they talk about murder. Never once do they mention the method or the weapon. The report never says knife or stabbing, only killed and murdered. It's as if they were killed by mind control. Simply because they weren't killed by guns, the means is buried. Anything that does not support the demand for more gun laws is buried, and knife attacks are not rare. ABC could have made a comparison with similar crimes like the stabbing spree in nearby Las Vegas a year earlier, or the 10 killed in nearby Saskatchewan a month after that, a veritable spree of stabbings. They could mention the even more fearsome daily random stabbings in England, like this one. An innocent lady walking down the street is stabbed in the back by a guy she didn't know and never saw before. It's happening there frequently. Now, all this violence is bad, and we care about everybody, but don't we care more about elderly women being stabbed at random than we do about drug dealers shooting each other? But the news, on the other hand, is more concerned about 4 gangbangers injuring each other in a turf war than they are about a little old lady being attacked at random in broad daylight. Because, it's the guns. All this matters because the news lying leads to more violence. And more violence leads to more guns. Thanks, ABC, for lying while people are dying and for keeping gun sales alive.